good press, and people were flocking to it. Why did they put so much trust in this new location? Simple. Henry and William advertised that there would no longer be terrible pizza. This because they got rid of the kitchen. This restaurant had no food. You'd think there would be a problem, but kids really like to go there for the characters alone. And by characters, I mean character. As even despite William's every last effort of making Foxy relevant, the kids now flocked to Toy Foxy's Kids Cove to tear him apart and put her back together. They thought they could make him look better, but without technical experience, she looked less like a pirate and more like a metal tumbleweed. William had now found a new rage spurred by Foxy's mere existence, and so he enacted a second missing children's incident to cripple the restaurant's success. This time, however, Henry had been paying attention. He saw the camera recordings of Spring thought he lured children to the safe room and realized that William was behind this the entire time. He immediately fired William and told him to never show his face again. William realized that this was a big problem. Henry may have let him off easy by not calling the authorities, but if anyone else checked anything, he'd be caught for sure. So, after ruffling through old newspapers about his murders to see if he liked any of the parents' names, he stole the name Dave Miller and applied for a job as a night guard at the location. Using this position, he tampered with the facial recognition scanners they implemented in the animatronics and wiped the camera recordings clean. On top of this, he beat up all of the old animatronics just to put them in their place after seeing Freddy walk around. He even tore off Bonnie's face for not being deserving of the mantle he once bore. Bonnie, possessed by little Jeremy Fitzgerald, was merely a prophecy of more face trauma to come to that bloodline. After getting done with that, William could have sworn he saw the puppet floating around whispering to everything he could see. This made him wonder if this was actually Charlie, but he didn't care enough to check, so he left it alone. The new set of children, though, William hadn't bothered actually stuffing them anywhere, so the puppet guided them to select new vessels of their own. Instead of individual characters like it was expecting, though, all of them voluntarily possessed Balloon Boy just because it was mildly amusing. William, still presenting as Dave, tried to maintain a job as a day shift guard after this, but was quickly fired for having bad vibes. Also, he kept going into the parts and service room to keep the old Foxy animatronic in the shins. Now that the night guard position was open, one of Michael Afton's old buddies applied for the job. Jeremy Fitzgerald II. He was actually pretty decent at it, but it got extremely stressful because Balloon Boy staged a coup against him with the other animatronics. So, once the week was over, he transferred over to the day shift position. Balloon Boy wasn't going to let Jeremy get away free, though, and proceeded to publicly attack him and bite out his frontal lobe. Wow. That face trauma prophecy came true quickly. But hey, don't worry, it grew back within a month. But this incident, dubbed the Bite of 87, was enough to finally get the establishment closed. On the night after this attack, they needed a guard to make sure Balloon Boy didn't escape. Instead of behaving, though, local menace Fred Smith tampered with all the animatronics and made it extremely aggressive just because he thought it'd be funny. Company higher-ups didn't appreciate this and quickly took care of the problem. Thus, 1987 ended with another location shut down abruptly. Henry scrapped all the toy animatronics after this except for Toy Freddy and the puppet. Turns out Toy Freddy was already retiring, as he really wanted to become a game. His endeavors were successful and he led a happy life. The puppet, meanwhile, just vanished. Henry, spooked by the idea of a sock monkey with a clown mask coming back to haunt him, started making blueprints for a counterattack if that day ever came. Now, Henry had his sights set on repairing and reusing the old animatronics for one last attempt at the pizzeria business without William in his way. However, this plan was easier said than done. Henry, with all of his financial incompetence, had next to no funds to enact this idea. So, he briefly attempted a public fund to try and get money. After a day of trying, he gave up with exactly $0 earned. Henry was broke, sure, but he had some powerful resolve. So, he decided to steal back the building he and William used in 1985 to recycle for his new pizzeria. Despite this being very much illegal, nobody actually wanted to use the building given its history, so the city decided not to bother Henry when he claimed it back as his. Being a one-man show, Henry had to take his sweet time renovating the place. But after about a year, he managed to open it back up with somewhat new animatronics. And, to his surprise, he was actually moderately successful. Due to a dwindling bear population in Utah, there was growing demand to see one in person, and the populace reluctantly decided that Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was their best shot at doing so. Unfortunately, the working conditions were very much terrible. The most loyal employee of Fazbear Entertainment, only known by his co-workers as Phone Guy, was assassinated by the animatronics during his final week of working the night shift due to looking suspiciously purple. The good thing is, he had recorded a helpful guide on how to not get assassinated right before getting assassinated. Henry was not ready to let this casualty of his negligence ruin things for him, though, so he covered up Phone Guy's death and business went as usual afterward. William, still being unemployed and poor, decided now was a good time to take revenge on Henry. Again, he realized that he still had an entire stockpile of animatronics he never got to use. With the power of legal loopholes, low prices, the average family could have a giant chrome animatronic shipped to their doorstep to throw parties for their children. What could go wrong? Well, baby's eyes were green. For a moment, William thought he just misremembered her eye color, but then she started talking to him about very personal matters, and he realized Elizabeth had possessed her. Instead of doing anything immediate to solve this problem, he locked her in the rental facility and wrote a note on the fridge to take care of it later.
How do you grow hair? Look to the sea. Proteins and rich vitamins, Viviscal supplements for more. One powerful pill, helping millions of women like you to regrow their hair. Thicker, fuller. Viviscal has been proven effective in over 10 clinical studies. It's your turn. Viviscal, proven to grow.
You're entering the Doritos dimension. Launch your taste buds on a journey to the realm of cheese and spice. If you're up for an unforgettable flight of flavor, we have liftoff. Try another angle. Doritos Spicy Nacho.
After a few more years, Michael Afton finally graduated engineering school and came back home. William was delighted by his son's return, as he was conveniently useful for his newest plot against Henry. However, he wanted Michael to be fully prepared for what was to come. So, William locked Mike into a crude replica of their house that vaguely resembled the layout of Freddy's. In this fake house, William had prepared shipped animatronics with dangerously high safety hazards to attack Michael, so he could learn how to defend himself against the real deal. After roughly a week of watching Mike handle the process, William noticed something went wrong. Something broke into the fake house. Upon further investigation, he discovered some discarded audio discs lying on the ground. It was Ferdinand von Bernard. Having wandered the wilds of Utah for exactly a decade, he returned to Hurricane to wreak havoc on his creators. So, he targeted William's favorite, only son, using his unaltered form. But Mike was resilient, and he managed to avoid Ferdinand long enough that he got bored, reapplied his audio discs, and finally wandered away. Given the unplanned attack on Michael, William ended the testing process and gaslit Mike into believing it was all just a nightmare before changing the subject to getting a job. To ensure that Henry wouldn't tell Michael what he was about his father, William told Mike that he should apply using his mother's name rather than Afton. That way he doesn't draw attention to himself for being related to everyone's favorite former manager, of course. So, Mike worked for a whole week at this place. The animatronics tried to assassinate him due to his good looks, or so he assumed. After working an extra night and being applauded by Henry, he was then instructed by William to sabotage the animatronics using his new engineering skills. Why do I need to disable their AI? It builds character. And Henry still owes me $5. Michael wasn't buying this, so he decided to do the exact opposite and crank them all up to the maximum setting to challenge himself at the end of his week. But due to the animatronic scent rubbing off on him, Henry fired him for body odor and inadvertently caused a personal grudge. Before leaving, Mike snuck into the back and disabled all of the animatronic systems to spite Henry. Now that the animatronics didn't work, everyone stopped caring about Freddy's again. Henry's profits plummeted, and he was ultimately forced to shut the place down by the end of 1993. After hearing this news, William was ecstatic. He began marketing the Circus Baby rental service even harder, which was in his vital plan. William needed Freddy's clothes for more reasons than just spite. The Fun Times Remnant collection was not working as frequently as he hoped, and if he wanted to understand the substance at all, he needed more of it quickly. So, he made sure he had free rein to tear apart the animatronics to harvest their remnant and leave. After sneaking into the now-abandoned Freddy's, he set up camp in the safe room, since the animatronics were programmed not to go in there. But then he remembered Michael had completely deactivated them, and they would only move if the souls possessing them were motivated enough to. Luckily, Shadow Freddy suddenly appeared, and William bribed him to start a conga line leading into the safe room so he could dismantle all the animatronics. His plan worked flawlessly. In the animatronics' weakened state, William was able to tear them apart using nothing but his bare hands. Unfortunately for him, some of the remnant spilled and formed into the physical spirits of the missing William. Terrified that they might be able to catch him in the shins, he ran into his trusted spring box and put it back on for the first time since 1987. Feeling empowered despite this accomplishing nothing, William began to light up the ghosts. But in his self-indulgent celebration, he failed to realize that the duct tape holding back the spring locks had fallen off, and the leaky ceiling proceeded to snap them shut. The ghosts, finding its inconvenience hilarious, faded away for the time being so they could gossip about it elsewhere. While normally being impaled like this would result in immediate death,